Cool. Thanks everyone for joining the tournament prep webinar today. Today's Saturday, May 2nd. We'll go ahead and get started here in a moment, but a couple of guidelines first. If everyone can make sure they stay muted during the webinar, that would be a big help. If you move your mouse over on your screen, a bottom bar should pop up and you'll see 3 buttons in the middle there. There's one for a microphone, one to leave the call, and one for your webcam. If everyone just makes sure that the microphone button stays muted throughout the call, it'll help limit any interruptions to the screen or any distractions for anyone else. So that would be a huge help. And then one last thing, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, we'll try to get to them as we go about. But at the top of your screen, there should be a little chat feature in the top right-hand corner. If you have any questions during the webinar and you want to drop your question in the chat feature, we'll get to it as soon as possible. Or if you want to wait to the end of the webinar, we can address it then, and you can unmute yourself and ask it from there. So, other than those housekeeping items, looking forward to today's webinar. Should get a lot of good information out of it. Hopefully, as the Philly Junior Tour season starts to get going here in a couple weeks, hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll get some more information out soon, hopefully. But hopefully as the tournament season starts to ramp up, some of this information will prove useful as we start getting back to golf. And that's about it for me. Other than that, I'll turn it over to Braden. Braden, why don't you go ahead and start off just by talking a little bit about yourself, your history as a player, and then you can kind of jump into what you got for us today.
Sure. Thanks, Lewis. I appreciate you having me on for this webinar. You know, it's an honor to be able to get in front of you guys and Philly Junior Tour members, talk about my experiences in competitive golf. So hopefully you guys can get something out of this. I guess start out, my name is Braden Shattuck, born in Chester, PA, and raised down the street in Aston, Pennsylvania, in Delaware County. So I'm not sure if you guys know where that is. But I played all kinds of sports growing up, you know, typical baseball, soccer, track, tennis, golf. Went to Sun Valley High School and played on the golf team there. Played a couple other sports, but mainly golf. From there, I went on to play college golf at University of Delaware for a year. I left after my first year to turn professional and pursue my playing career full-time. When I was younger, both my parents worked at golf course at Glen Mills, so nice public course there in Glen Mills when I was younger, and subsequently that's where I learned to play the game when I was growing up. So my mom started out at the course and works at the school now. My dad was doing maintenance before the place opened up in 2000. I think I was, 8 years old maybe. I was a little tight when I first started to go to the summer camps and the clinics there. Back then, they were taught by head pro Bob Pfister and his crew of assistants there at the time. I got my first lessons with him as well. And now, ironically, I help Bob teach those clinics to kids like me. So it's pretty cool to be able to do that and give back. So I've been doing that for about 5 years now. He's an old school pro. He's good friends with Ed Doherty. For those of you who don't know who Ed Doherty is, he played on the PGA Tour and was a very good senior tour player, made a lot of money out there. So every time I'm around him or Bob, I learn a little bit, about playing experiences back in the day, whatever. They're both really great guys. So Bob's one of the guys I learned from growing up. If you want me to kind of just jump into my playing history with the Philly Junior Tour and kind of move from there, Lewis?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I started playing, competitive golf originally on the Philly Junior Tour when I was 11. So that was a very long time ago. I'm 25 now. 2009, so I was 13 years old, was when I won my first tournaments. They were at Inniscrone, and it was actually at the Rehoboth Junior Open, which is probably one of my favorite events. You go down there, it's a really affordable entry fee. You get, a great buffet beforehand and, beautiful golf course. The whole thing's great. They put on a good show down there. So that was pretty exciting to win when I was 13. Next year, I won 3 Philly Junior Tour events and didn't finish outside the top 3 in any of them. 2011, I was, I guess, going into my junior year of high school. I won 6 events, including the Junior PGA Championship at Concord Country Club. Shot 8 under par for 36 holes, and moved on to the National Junior PGA at Sycamore Hills in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then also another Rehoboth Junior Open that year. Next year after that, 2012 was my senior year in high school. I had committed to University of Delaware to play golf by then. Won 5 events that year, Junior Tour Championship at Saucon, repeated in the Junior PGA Championship at Concord, won that again in a playoff, and went on to play again at the Junior PGA Championship. And also another Rehoboth Junior Open that year. Qualified for 2 Junior PGAs, Junior Worlds over at Torrey Pines, exemptions into AJGAs, Genesis Junior. I didn't play in many AJGAs back when I was younger. Just, they're super expensive, too rich for my blood at the time. You got to go play in a qualifier, and then, it's a couple-day event. So it just wasn't really a feasible option for me and my family at the time, but they are great events, obviously. So I was lucky enough to be able to get an exemption into one of those and play. It was a great experience. I also played in a lot of tournaments in New Jersey called the Cape Junior Golf Tour, run by PJT Professional John Petronas. I don't believe that tour exists anymore, but that was a great tour as well. So I was playing tons of junior tournaments at the time. I highly recommend any of you to play as many junior tour events as you can. The more you play, the better. The less nervous you'll be, all that stuff. So I went on to college. I played, obviously, at University of Delaware, started right away. Within the fall season there, we play fall and spring. So fall season, I moved up to #1 spot after just a couple of events. Struggled with some injuries and stuff like that, so I didn't get to play really to my full potential, but still managed to win one event, the Wildcat Invitational at White Manor. That was a Villanova event, so that was a good one. And then, like I said, after I left my first year, turned professional. So turning professional is a whole new beast that I didn't realize until I did it, but it was awesome. So I worked a couple of jobs when I left school, support my family and myself, save some money, and turn pro. Turned pro in 2015. I believe I was turning 21 that year. Honestly, mainly I did it because I figured if I was going to compete and play, I might as well get paid if I'm going to play well. So that's the main reason behind that one. Mike Moses at Concord Country Club was a huge help for me because he played mini tours for a while before getting into the PJ business. And Sean O'Hare played there at Concord as well when he was a young professional. So Mike, was helping Sean out a lot and knew a lot about the tournaments that I should play and get solid experience in tournaments. So Concord let me do my playing and practicing there in exchange for some help around the club, which was huge to have a place to play and practice. So I started out my first events. I played up in Canada, what's called the Circuit Canada Pro Tour. It's actually a really great tour. They have really good purses and great events, and they're 4-day events, which honestly is kind of rare in the mini tour circuit. Most mini tour events are 1 to 2 days, sometimes 3. You get state opens that are 3. So getting some 4-day events in is great because really you don't play too many 4 days until you go to Q school. So played in those, played in a string of state opens up in the New England area, which was remnants of a tour up there that Sean used to play on. PA Open, other opens, Florida Professional Tour, West Florida Tour, Florida Elite Golf Tour, played in a fair share of Monday qualifiers for the Web.com Tour and the PGA Tour. Gotten really close. I missed a few of them just by a single shot. So super close. And, once I'm fully healthy, it's just a matter of time before I break through. Like I said, I've still been struggling with some injuries for the last, 15 months or so. So it's been a little bit of a haul. Overall, I've won 5 professional events in my 4 years or 5 years now playing professionally. Most recently, New England Open and Delaware Open. Shot 8 under and 19 under in those respectively. And then also last year, the William Hyman tournament at Huntington Valley. So that's a little bit of my recent playing career. So first off, what I focus on most in practice. So that's a good question. I basically break it down into block practice and random practice. You guys have probably heard of that if you do any sort of reading online about practice. My block practice tends to be kind of routine oriented or working on positions, stuff like that. You take your 8-iron out and you're working on, certain mechanics and hitting positions. So that's block practice. Random practice is more similar to recreating like a tournament or an actual round where you go out and hit different shots on the range. So for block practice, I just like to make it like working out. I like to work out, so I make kind of like sets and reps, right? So for example, with my putting, I always start out my practice for my day with putting. So putting, I start out with 25 putts with the mirror. So this is the mirror that I use. It's an eyeline golf mirror, and every one of you should have one of these. And if you do not have one, order one because you're at a huge disadvantage. It'll clean up every bit of your putting, alignment problems, eye lines, everything. Everything that you do with your setup, which is the most important part, it'll clean that right up. So you guys should all get one of those. So I'll do 25 on the mirror, make sure everything looks clean, make sure my shoulders are square, eyes are over the ball, face is square, putting arc looks good, all that stuff. So start out the practice session, with everything looking good. So then I'll hit, 10 straight 10-footers after that. I'll hit 10 right to left 5-footers, get a feel for the right to lefters. Then I'll hit 10 left to right 5-footers, get a feel for the left to righters, see how they're breaking. Then I'll hit 10 right to left 20-footers for some speed, 10 left to right 20-footers, 10 right to left 30-footers, and then 10 left to right 30-footers. So I'll get my fair share in from both sides of the hole, get a feel for, speed control and from the different distances, 10, 5, 10, 20, and 30 feet, and left to right, right to left. You can't leave any of those things out, because if you do, when you go to a tournament, and you haven't hit many left to right putts because you don't like hitting left to right putts, you're probably going to miss them. So even though you don't like to do it, and I definitely don't like to do it, you got to do it. So I would recommend, that's my personal recommendation, and it really covers all your bases and makes it easy to remember. So you're not going to randomly practicing every day. Secondly, what I focus on most is full swing yardages and reference yardages with each of my clubs. So like, for example, Phil Mickelson talked about this in a Faraday episode, which was funny because I do the same thing, but he's way more in depth than I am. So you got to have your full swing yardage, right? So my 58 degree goes 103 on the fly. I know that full swing stock yardage 103. Then my reference yardage is, so for me, I feel like my left arm, gets to, parallel, or my shoulder hits my chin. And if I do that and just swing through normal, I know that ball's going to carry 72 yards. So I'll dial in that feeling and dial in that 72 yards. So I've got 2 yardages for my 58 degree. I got a 72 yard shot, which is like my 3/4, and then I've got my 103. And then I can kind of dial from there. But if I don't really have a reference yardage for my 58 degree and I have 60 yards, I don't really, you're not really going to be able to have a feel for how to dial into 60 yards rather than just guessing. So if you have a reference yardage, you can really work off of that feel, since you know exactly how far it's going to go. So I would highly recommend you guys know all of your full swing yardages. That's something I focus on a lot in my practice. And then get some reference yardages for your, at least for your wedges. You don't necessarily need to have one for a 3-iron or a 4-iron, but definitely know how far they go on, full swing. And TrackMan's pretty relatively available now. A lot of places do have them. So if you can get on there and get some distances, that'll be super helpful for you. So then you're not guessing. And, I hit my 8-iron 160-ish. I know exactly how far my 8-iron goes. It goes 176. Pitching wedge goes 146. 7-iron goes 187. So I know all of my yardages to the number for a full swing. So that's a good idea. And if you're wondering how to get those, so go on TrackMan and say you hit 7, hit 10 7-irons, right? Throw out the bad ones, all the ones you hit very well, get an average of how far those go, and it's going to be pretty tight. It'll be within a couple of yards, and that's how you know. If you don't have a TrackMan, just try and find a very flat spot on your course and go out there. Use the same ball. Obviously, if you use Pro V1X, hit 20 Pro V1Xs, take 10 of the best ones that you hit, and kind of find that average yardage. Use your rangefinder or whatever you have to be able to measure that. That's how I did it before TrackMan. So highly recommend you guys work on your yardages. And then some drills. Another thing I work on is some drills that Sean O'Hare gave me. He's nice enough to help me out here and there, which is great to learn from a tour player. So I like to work on pause drills at the top. Tiger used to work on these. They really stink. So you just you take your club, and I'll just kind of show you guys. So you just go right to the top of your swing, and you just hold it, for 2 seconds, and then you go down. You start everything down together. So all that does is help you sync up your golf swing. So those are not fun, and usually you hit it really bad at first, but it really teaches you how to sync up your hands, the club, your body, with all the rotation and everything. So you don't want everything going at different times. So that'll help you a lot. And then path to face drills. So like learn to curve it, right? So this is something I do for myself and also when I give lessons. Basically, so the ball's always going to start, if you know ball flight laws, which is super important, ball's always going to start in the direction that the face was pointed at impact relatively, and then it's going to curve away from the path, right? So if I hit a shot that starts at the flag and then hooks away from it, that means my face was pointed at the flag and my path was to the right of that if I'm a right-handed golfer and hooks, right? So I'll just do waist-high to waist-high swings, working on trying to curve it, right? So, grab an 8-iron, do it to like a 50-yard post or flag at the range, and learn how to curve it. Get it to start at the flag and draw. Get it to start at the flag and fade. Get it to start left of the flag and fade into it, and then get it to start right of the flag and draw into it, and just do it with half swings at first, because really all you're trying to work on is that hitting area through impact. That 2-foot section there where you're really working on the release and everything going on in the impact hit area. So you don't really need to do that with full swings as much, that drill. But you can work up to full swings. Just start off with some waist high to waist high, so like a little half shots, just to get a feeling for how to curve it. Because when you're out on the golf course, you're not going to be able to hit every shot straight or hit every shot with a fade or whatever. I think it's great to have a stock shot that you do have, but you should be able to curve it both ways, and that's a really easy drill to be able for you guys to get a good feel for curving it both ways. So, and then another thing is, especially for me, I hit it a little bit on the longer side, so I need some backup shots for my tee shot. It's another thing Sean told me. I tend to get a little wild off the tee even though I hit it far, so I need backup shots. So I finally developed a punch 2-iron shot that I have, and a punch 3-iron, a squeeze choke down cut with the driver that I can get that in play. I can get it in the fairway. It doesn't go very far, it's 60, 70 yards behind my driver, but it's in the fairway. So that's the most important thing. You can't be hitting it from the woods on every hole. It's just not feasible. I've been there. You can try as hard as you want. You just got to be able to get it in play. So if you start out a round and you're hitting your driver bad, you'll have a go-to shot. You'll have something you can lean on when you're not hitting it good, which is super important. So fourth, I guess, try to recreate pressure with some games with your friends. Any kind of game is good. Or you can do it with yourself. You can do, around the world. If you guys know what that is, you set up tees all around the hole for putting. And you got to be able to get them all in the hole in a row, and you can't miss, or else you got to start over. Or you could work back. So I'll set tees 5 feet apart. So I'll start at 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, 20, and 25. You set the tees up. You got 2 balls down at each spot. Throw a little break in there just to make it a little harder. So you got to make 2 in a row. You got to make them all. So you got to make both 5-footers, then you go to 10 feet. You got to make both 10-footers, then you go to 15 feet. You got to work your way back until you make all of them. And if you miss one, then you got to start over. So that adds a little bit of pressure. You guys have probably heard of things like that before, but a lot of people don't do it because it stinks, but it will definitely help you. It's definitely helped me. Another thing that, like, once I turned pro, that some of my friends would make me do, if I got an 8-footer for birdie, they'd make me throw a $50 bill on the ground and be like, hey, you missed that putt, I get that $50 bill. Nobody wants to give up $50, so that's a really tough way to learn. but it definitely recreates some pressure, especially if you don't have that much money. So it's a good one. I wouldn't recommend that to you guys, but that's just one that I do. So any way you can recreate pressure with some games is going to be super helpful. Everybody's going to have nerves when you go into a tournament. I don't think there's a player on earth who doesn't feel a little bit of nerves going on the first tee. If you don't have nerves, then you probably don't care that much about it. So most of you guys will probably have nerves when you step on the first tee, which is normal. But if you play games and recreate some pressure in your practice, then it's not going to be a super issue once you go to play. So shifting to tournament prep, does my focus shift when preparing for a tournament? The long and short answer is no. So personally, at the beginning of the season, after a long layoff, say I take the winter off and don't go to Florida and play mini tours, I need about 6 weeks to get my game ready to play tournaments. So my prep for tournament season starts, 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time. I get my yardages on point, like I was saying, my full swing yardages, reference yardages. Get my short game feel. Everybody knows chipping and pitching and all that stuff goes away over the winter time. So I get my short game feel back, get my putting back, doing the routines that I was talking about with the mirror, get all my setup right, all of that stuff. And I get my backup shots straightened out. You got to have all those. For me, I have to have all of those things in line before I feel ready. If my yardages are off, or I don't even have a stock shot yet, or a backup shot, or my putting kind of stinks still, I'm not ready. But usually for me, it takes about 6 weeks. And then the couple days before a tournament, I like to just go play golf and score. I don't want to mess with my mechanics. I've been there and I've done that. Always kind of trying to work on things, before a tournament, during a tournament, all of that stuff. I did that especially when I turned pro, trying to be perfect, and that does not work. You just got to go out and play golf, play with what you got that day. So yeah, that's the only time that my focus shifts when preparing for a tournament. It stays pretty consistent. I stick to my routine, and if I stick to my routine in practice, I get my feel comes back. Everything comes back the way it should be, and I hit all of the things that I need to hit on that list. So just make sure the couple days before you go out and play, try not to work on mechanics. It's probably not going to stick in those couple days beforehand anyways. So it's almost a little bit of a waste of time. So that's the timeline for my prep leading up to a tournament is 6 to 8 weeks. Everybody's different. So I played in tournaments, US Open qualifiers and stuff, where guys go out and they shoot 66, and in their interview they're like, oh yeah, I just picked up the sticks 2 weeks ago. And I'm not that guy, so I can't just play for a week or two and then go out and tear it up. So for everybody's different. That's going to take time for you guys. If you're wondering how long it takes to prep leading up to a tournament, it's everybody's different. So you'll just have to find out what works for you. And over the years, I've learned that it takes me, 6 to 8 weeks. So next, how do I play a practice round? So this is really super important. I played practice rounds the wrong way for such a long time. And I didn't realize until like my 3rd year as a professional how to play a practice round. So most important things are going to be your tee shots. For one, you gotta have some confidence and know where to miss it off the tee, right? So you step up, you see all the 18 holes you're gonna play. You got to know what shot that shot calls for. You got to be able to hit it, and you've got to be able to see it, right? So like you have to have already done it. So like a lot of tour players will get up on the practice round, and they will if they hit a bad tee shot in the practice round, grab another ball, and hit another bad one. They got to see that shot. They got to feel that shot, go in the fairway, see what they're looking for. Because if you can't feel it or see it, you're probably going to have bad thoughts in your head when you step up to that tee box, because the day before when you played your practice round, you sliced it into the woods, and then you didn't practice and bother to hit another one. So that's super important. Make sure that tee shot, you feel comfortable with it and you know what to play. And then know where to miss it, right? So when you're playing your home course seems easy. You know how the greens break. You know where to miss it, most importantly. You know where to not hit it, where to hit it. And just a little anecdote, when I was caddying in a pro-am down at the RBC Heritage for Ollie Schneiderjans. I was talking to his caddy. I was talking to him a while, and I just asked him, kind of what are the most important things that you see for guys who make it out here and do well. And he basically said, every guy that makes the cut every week, all those guys you see making the cut, those guys off the tee, they keep it in play. He said, they don't do anything crazy special, but they're not losing balls, hitting it out of bounds, hitting it in the water. Those guys are hitting it in the fairway. And then the guys that finish, top 20, 25 for the week, those are the guys making putts. They're the ones high up the leaderboard. They're keeping it in play, nothing crazy, and then they're making putts. So obviously that varies every week, but everything kind of in the middle is not so much as important, because if you're hitting your tee shots and you're hitting it out of bounds, you're losing 2 shots before you even started the hole. So you got to get your tee shots in play, number one. So that's really important. And so like the most important thing for me that I really did mess up was when I would go to a tournament, they'd have the dots sprayed for where the pin locations are going to be. I would stand there and had to hit putts and try to find out how it breaks and get the perfect read for each putt. And it's just not, you're not going to be able to remember it. It's just not going to happen. The greens might be a little bit different speed the next day, so it might break a little bit. They might cut it a little bit differently the next day, so it's going to break a little different. I wasted my time doing that. It does not help. But really important for me is practicing the short side shots to those pins, right? So obviously you don't want to short side yourself. If you leave yourself on the right side of the flag stick, the side you're supposed to, you should have a pretty easy up and down. But if you short side yourself, it stinks. So go throw some balls down, put your putter cover on where the hole location is going to be. Throw some balls down to the short side, the side that stinks to miss, but you tend to always miss it there. Throw some balls down, get some practicing, get a feel for how to hit that shot. So that way you'll have some confidence. If you do face that shot in the tournament, you'll know exactly what to do. And then you won't be so worried about missing it there because you already practiced that shot, which frees you up a little bit. I found some serious success with that, and I found myself winding up in the exact same spot that I just practiced. So I knew exactly what to do, and it was an easy shot. But if I duffed the first few or hit them over the green, I hit them too hard, too soft. But if you practice them a little bit, obviously you'll know how hard to hit them or what the shot calls for. So I would tell you guys, most importantly, tee shots and know where to miss it. You gotta see it and feel it. You gotta had to hit good tee shots and then practice the short sides around the greens. So those are super important. What do I pay attention to during a tournament round? So that depends. Those things kind of change. I like to have like maybe one swing thought, just something easy, like pause at the top and then go. Something simple. So those things are going to change, but you don't want to be thinking about positions or anything like that. Most importantly, just like tempo, basic things like setup. So you do that stuff all in your pre-shot routine. So I'll just make 2 practice swings, really focus on syncing up, nice rhythm, and all that, good tempo. And then when I set up, I'm just paying attention to it. So those are the things that you can control. Just focus on the things you can control. You can't control the wind or the bounce or anything like that. Just focus on the things that you can control in your swing and just how you handle yourself. So and then strategy and course management, right? So you've got to have good course management. For example, I won a tournament up in New England. It was the New England Open, and I was playing both. So there was a lot of holes there that I wasn't comfortable hitting driver, or I wasn't comfortable with the tee shot at all. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it the way that I feel comfortable. There was a part, just for starters, the second hole is a par 5. There's a bunker right in the middle of the fairway. It goes up a hill, then it's blind. OB left, OB right. It goes out and then dog legs. You hit a driver, you can hit it over the trees and get on the green. But I just didn't like it. It dropped 50 feet off to the right and went down OB, and then everything left was OB and there's trees. It just didn't look good to my eye at all. And every time before I tried to hit driver, it never worked out because I didn't like the way it looked. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to hit a 5. That bunker was 220 yards out. So I was like, you know what? 5 iron's going to keep me short of that. I'm just going to hit a 5-iron out there. And then my next one, I laid up with a 5-iron, perfect, right in the middle of the fairway. I wedged it close, and I made birdie. And so it doesn't matter that I hit 5-iron off the tee, and everybody was looking at me funny, like, dude, do you know this is a par 5? It doesn't matter. That's what worked for me, and that's what's most important. So that's course management. There's other holes on that golf course, the same thing. I had to hit irons off the tee and have 100 yards longer into the hole because I wasn't comfortable hitting driver, and I knew that I was probably not going to hit a good one, and I'd lose 2 shots right off the bat. So I'd rather take my chances with having 200 yards into the hole or having something longer in, and knowing that I can keep it in play off the tee. That gave me some confidence. Whether they look at you funny or not, it's how you play. So for me, that's what was most important. And I walked home with the trophy and the check, so it didn't matter. So day of the tournament, you've got to have a routine that makes your body and your mind feel good. So, for me, it's the same thing every time. I go in, stretch, I warm up, do the same exercises, then I head to the putting green first, and then I head to the range. So on the putting green, I do my routine, my putts, with the mirror, then right to left to right, all that stuff. And then I head to the range, start out with wedge, work your way up. So same thing that you guys probably do, but it just helps you relax and feel like you're ready to go. You're not trying to hit it perfect, you're just warming up. Because we all know that sometimes you have terrible range sessions and you go out and you light it up. Sometimes you have great range sessions and you go out and you play awful. So it doesn't matter. It's just a routine to make your body and mind feel good. Just go out there and loosen up. So it takes experience and kind of experimentation to find out what works for you. So just experiment, man. It doesn't hurt. So you might find something that really works for you. John Daly doesn't even like to hit balls on Sunday. So everybody's different. Tournament mindset. So this is pretty important. I worked with a sports psychologist about this stuff. It's really a lot simpler than you might imagine, obviously. Just, most importantly, you need to relax. You got to make a game plan. Doesn't have to be super tight. Just has to be a game plan. Commit to it, relax, adjust anything if needed. You go out there and the wind's different that day, and you're like, I was going to hit driver here. Now I got to hit a 3-wood. Doesn't matter. You just got to adjust and know that going into it. Not everything's going to go according to plan. But you want to focus when it's time to focus. Don't try to remain focused the whole round and be super intense and be Tiger Woods. Like, that's not feasible. I don't even think Tiger Woods is focusing when he's walking down the fairway. He's just zoning out. You focus when it's time to focus, that 45 seconds before the shot, and when you're over it, you focus. If talking to your playing partners relaxes you, then talk to them. If you like to be quiet and be in your own bubble, you do that. You do what works for you, and that's going to be different for everyone. If you're a little bit nervous over, your first putt, that's good. I mean, hey, you're out there, you're competing. It's a privilege to be nervous and have a chance to, play golf and be out there. So don't look at it as a negative thing. Every dude you're playing with is going to be nervous. Every girl or guy is going to be nervous. So don't really worry about it. It'll go away after a couple holes if you're nervous. So just try to relax and enjoy the fact that you are out there playing and you have, a chance to win and compete. So, and nobody's going to, hate you or not be your friend anymore if you don't play well. So don't beat yourself up. I've played with some crazy people in my day, guys who beat themselves up, literally, physically, like punch themselves in the face on the course, break their own glasses and stuff, break clubs over their heads and all kinds of crazy stuff. So you don't want to be that guy or girl. Nobody likes playing with that person. So don't be that person. I used to get mad too when I was younger, and, it doesn't help, doesn't solve anything. So if you want to curse or slam your club, just do it. Get it out of your system, but be done with it after that. You can't drag it on. Just slam your club, move on. A funny tip that a guy gave me one time was to relax my face muscles. And this sounds silly, but if you try to relax your face muscles, if you just sit there and try to relax your face muscles, your whole body relaxes. It seems kind of dumb, but it really does work. So I'll do that when I'm out there. And then last, I guess, practice between rounds. When you're in tournaments, if you got a multiple day tournament, like Junior PGA was multiple day tournament, don't overdo it. if you didn't hit it good during your round, do not go to the range and try to beat balls and have a full range session for 2 hours. That is not going to help. I can tell you from personal experience, I've done it. I've gone on the range and I know I've hit balls for longer than everybody in the field, and I thought I was accomplished because I was going over there hitting more balls than everybody. That does not help, because trust me, I went out the next day and hit even worse, probably because I was tired and overthinking it. If you want to go work on one specific thing after the round, like, I felt like I was a little steep, I want to shout it out, or something simple, go hit 20 balls and work on it and call it a day. You're not gonna find the miracle cure between rounds, so don't overdo it. So as far as my presentation on tournaments goes, that pretty much covers the points. So if you have any questions for me, Lewis, or anybody else has any general questions, shoot them at me. I'm happy to help you.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions right now, feel free to unmute yourself at the bottom of the screen there on the bar. Just tap the microphone icon and it should unmute yourself. But if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them out there for the group and we can take care of them.
Yeah, and if you're not comfortable speaking, just put it in the chat box and I'll answer. Give a minute or two for guys to come up with any questions. Oh,
there's a question.
Great question. So my girlfriend sitting right next to me actually is a aspiring registered dietitian. She just finished her internship up. So she is super into sports nutrition. So I can either have her come on and give you a little tidbit, or I can tell you myself. She looks like she wants me to do it. So nutrition before, during, and after. So before a round, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I think I've learned a lot from you. So before a round, for me personally, I love to have a pretty high carb, moderate protein, high fat meal, like probably 2 hours before I go out and play. So that way I get nice and full. The carbs and the fats provide lasting energy for throughout the round, and the fats slow down the digestion. So an example for me, like I really love to have 2 bacon, egg, and cheese with avocado on them. So I'll have 2 of those on a bagel. So I'll have 2 bagels, basically, a couple of eggs, bacon, avocado. So that's a ton of fat. So that your eggs, your bacon, your avocado all have fats in them. And then you got plenty of carbs in the bagel or toast or whatever you decide to have. For me, it's a bagel. And then I'll have a bowl of cut up oranges. I'll have 2 full oranges, and just which is obviously more carbs. So obviously I keep it very high carb before a round and high fat. And then during a round, I don't like to eat too much during a round, because if I do eat too much, if you go in after the turn, you have a hot dog or a hamburger, I get sluggish and it throws my game off. So just try to keep it light. Energy bars, stuff like that. What's that? What? Yeah, trail mix. You gotta let me finish here. Trail mix, whatever. I like to have chocolate in my trail mix. I always bring a bag of trail mix. You gotta have a 16-ounce Gatorade at least. Keep your electrolytes in you and keep yourself hydrated. Super important. So for me, it's usually peanut butter and jelly, banana, trail mix, and a Gatorade during a round. And sometimes I don't even eat all of it. It just depends on the day. Sometimes I'm super hungry. And we all know that if you're hungry when you're out there playing a tournament, that's not good. I get a little shaky when I get hungry, so I don't want that to happen. You don't want to be shaky over a 3-footer. That's breaking away from you down the hill. And then afterwards, you got to recover. So you want protein and you want carbohydrates. You want to refill your glycogen stores for the next day. So like to refill your glycogen stores, you got to have carbs. So you want to keep it high carb and high protein after the round. So for example, for me, I love to have a big ribeye steak. I like to have spinach or some sort of mixed vegetable, and then like a baked potato or something like that for my carbs. So that's a big hefty dinner for me. So you don't have to eat all those things are, you're getting enough healthy things in along with the unhealthy. So that's how I would tell you to do it. You may not like ribeye steaks or anything like that, but just know as far as macros goes, you want to keep it, for me, high carb, high fat, moderate protein before a round. Keep the energy going and the hydration going during the round, and then after the round, recover, get the glycogen stores going. High carb, high protein. So that's that. Jeffrey Bethman, what were you shooting at the age of 15? Jeff, do you mean for tournaments or do you mean for just a regular round? Because obviously a little bit better during regular rounds and tournament rounds. But age of 15, I was probably shooting high 60s, low 70s, sometimes mid 70s in tournaments, and mid to high 60s and low 70s in regular rounds, like at my home course. You always play a little bit better at your home course. So yeah, probably on average, I think my scoring average was probably around a 71, maybe 72 max when I was 15. Daryl Rosinski for 11. What do you mean, Daryl? Do you mean when I was 11? You could clear that question out.
Yeah, I think that's what he was asking.
Okay, yeah. So when I was 11, God. Let's see. I honestly, I think I was probably shooting mid 40s, something for 9 holes. So I was probably, shooting all around 90, something 90, low 90s. So it wasn't, I wasn't lighting the world on fire like some of these kids do now. Everybody improves at a different rate. So can you set, James Warmkessel asked, can you set expectations of what a Philly Tour event is like for under 12-year-olds? When I played with them when I was under 12, and honestly, I wasn't nervous at all. I was having a blast. I don't know what the Philly Junior Tour events are like now, but they're super fun. If it's your first event, don't worry about being nervous or anything like that. It's just a bunch of young guys going out and having a good time and competing. It's not super hardcore or anything like that. It's a great time, and it gets you some tournament experience and reps at a young age, which is a good time to start. Chris Guider, I think that's how you pronounce that. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Everybody gets my name wrong, so I feel bad when I got other names wrong. I always get Brandon and Brandon. What is the biggest tournament you have won or been in? You can choose which one to answer. So biggest tournament I have won, that's a tough one. I would probably tie that between the New England and the Delaware Open. I would say the New England Open was definitely harder to win. All of those guys are either web.com players or mini tour players, and they're good. They're all really good. So it's hard to win those events. People underestimate how hard it is to win a state open championship. And that one was for the entire New England area, so all the states. So that one was probably the hardest to win. Delaware Open, I would say is a good one too. But I would say New England Open was probably the best one I've won in terms of the competition. You got James Driscoll playing, and he's a PGA Tour player. Like, guys show up to these events it confuses me when PGA Tour players show up to a mini tour event, but they do it. So it's great to win something like that with, really good players in it. Jillian asked, how far in advance tee time should you arrive? Like I said, that is totally up to you. So for me, I like to do about 15 minutes of, bands and stretching and exercises before my round. So that takes about 15 minutes. It takes me about 20 minutes to get my putting and a little bit of chipping in, and then about 20 to 25 minutes to get in my ball, hitting balls. So, and then I head right to the first tee. So that takes me, about an hour. That's probably right on an hour. So I'll get there, because I got to put my shoes on and stuff like that. I'll probably get there an hour and 10 or an hour and 15 before. I don't want to rush. Rushing's the worst. But some people like to just show up, I've traveled with guys who like to show up 25 minutes before their tee time, roll some putts, hit a few wedges, and just roll right to the first tee, and that's how they do it. So that one, For me, I get there an hour and 10 before. That works the best for me, so I can get everything. Jeffrey, for the Philly tour, do you walk your or carry? Walk your bag with Patty.
Yeah, Braden, I can jump in there real quick and answer that one. Just Jeffrey, just a little bit of an idea for you. For the junior tour, all the kids walk anyways. For the 12 and under division only, and Braden's is probably a little bit different than when you were playing, but for our 12 and under division only, there's an option to caddy as well. A parent can join the caddy program. There's a little bit of information on it on our website, but basically all it is it's a one-time fee of $35. And all it does is it pays for the caddy bib, which is yours to keep. And then you have that caddy bib with you anytime you're in a tournament, and you're allowed to carry the bag for your 12 and under junior, help them read putts, club selection, give advice, anything like that. But that's only for the 12 and under division.
Nice.
Like I said, there's a little bit more information on the website. If you go to the website's homepage, under the player info tab, there's a page about the PJT caddy program. So there's a little more info there.
Cool.
That answers it.
That's pretty neat. I didn't know that you guys were doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Started, I think, fall of 2017. So a couple of years old now.
That's great. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a preferred order of tournament day warm-up or up to the individual? I do stretch, range, and short game. Yeah, that is... For me, I like to keep myself loose before I head to the first tee. So I don't want to putt for 20 minutes before I go to the first tee personally. I'm bending over, just staying stationary. For me, that stiffens me up. So after I warm up, I get in the putting and stuff and get that out of the way, and then go hit balls. So that way when I go to the first tee, I just got off a range. I was just hitting balls. So for me, that works the best because I'm still loose and I'm still ready to go. If I go hit balls and then I go chip and putt, I'm tight. So I don't like to be tight before I hit my first tee shot. So that's me personally. Elsa and Zaldo, do you recommend a push cart for 12 and under? Is it allowed? I'll pass that one off to you.
Yeah, I can take that one as well. Push cart, I mean, for anyone that's comfortable with it and that likes to use it, it's a great idea. For our Philly Junior Tour events, push carts are allowed at any event for anybody. The only restrictions to that would be if we're visiting a tournament that's at a facility that doesn't allow them. Usually we try to put that information on all the information pages. So if you look at a specific tournament on the website, there should be a section of additional notes, and that gives some more information specifically about the tournament. And usually there's a section about push carts and whether they're allowed at that course or not. 95 to 98% of the time, they will be allowed at the course, so you'll be allowed to use them. But there's a couple minor exceptions on our schedule that sometimes the course just doesn't allow them for whatever reason.
Yeah, push carts are great. The guys use them in Q School all the time. So people on every level use them. They're great. So I recommend them if you have one.
Cool.
If you guys didn't feel like I answered your question the way you wanted to, please let me know, and I'll try to clear it up for you. And if there's any other questions, obviously.
Also, just a real quick reminder to everyone as we're finishing up here, we did record the webinar today. So what we'll do is once the recording downloads to my computer, I'll get a link available for everybody, and we'll send it out, the link, so you can rewatch it on your own time as well.
Cool.
So we'll do a final call for questions here, and then we'll wrap it up and let everyone get on with their weekend. Cool. If no one else has any questions, Braden, just like to say, really appreciate you taking the time out of your weekend to join us and to share some knowledge with the group. I think it was really an enlightening webinar. I think everyone had some good takeaways for it, and hopefully they'll try to apply some stuff as we prepare for our tournament season.
Good deal. Glad I could help. Thanks for having me on, Liz. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for your time today, and hope everyone has a great weekend.
All right. Sounds good.